Ocean 7 is a list of channels around the world that basically take a swimmer apart. 5 people have completed the list in their lifetimes. I'm going to be the first person to attempt to do it in a single year.
We're going to have the hypothermia risk. We're going to have jellyfish in every swim that she does, sharks, strong currents, fatigue.
She's swimming for 14 hours, 16 hours. I can't really imagine doing anything for 14 hours straight. Fingers crossed.
Beth is pretty tired, being sick now.
My biggest fear is Beth not completing it and not bringing her back.
Dylan is the reason that I'm doing the 7 swims, to teach him that you can fulfill your potential and overcome your fears and your boundaries.
Mum, give us a thumbs up, yeah?
She's a single parent. It's maybe something she should do when Dylan's older.
There's a forecast coming up to Dorn 10. It's not far away from that now.
If you do see sharks out there, we want you to put this on your ankle.
Beth has been a wonderful member of the community in this village.
Beth will never say she's had enough. Beth will go on and on.
There's a shark! Shark!
I'm going there! I'm going there! You left. Just like that.
Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are around this fine world, for another very special edition of WOWSA Live. We're here with 2 very special guests who are the director and the protagonist of the film Against the Tides. Welcome, Beth and Stefan.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
hi,
Beth,
Stephen,
where are
thank
you
you.
located today?
So I am down in Somerset in the southwest of the UK.
Got it. In front of a beautiful mural, I see.
Absolutely,
Yes.
lots of inspiration.
Yes. Stefan, where are you located right now?
I'm in London, UK.
Got it. And as a director, can you explain to us what is Against the Tides all about?
Yeah, so Against the Tides is it's a feature length, 90-minute long documentary, and it follows Beth's journey to swim Ocean 7, the challenge Ocean 7 in a year, and we followed her around doing the challenge, and so the film sort of is covers that journey.
Wow. And I mean, I know how difficult the Ocean 7 is in itself. And now you overlay that in creating a film. Beth, I mean, how difficult did you set off to do this Ocean 7, and why did you want to do this?
So Ocean 7 in and of itself, like you say, is an incredible challenge. I mean, the challenges of each individual swims, not just the travel, but the actual waters itself in different areas, the different requirements for each swim, they're amazing, and it's an epic challenge. But for me, it was a real personal journey. Having been really ill when I was younger with myalgic encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, CFSME, and ending up in a wheelchair when I was a teenager, for me, the whole point of wanting to attempt to do Ocean 7 at all was to try and do it in a year, to prove to myself that I had made a full recovery, so that I could challenge my body to do them one after another and to recover in time to do them in a single year. And for us long distance swimmers, I mean, what a perfect year to spend a whole year doing nothing but traveling and swimming.
Yeah, I can't even imagine well, first of all, I know well the freedom we have when we're in the ocean or seas. I mean, that's tremendous. Now to go from being in a wheelchair to doing this, I mean, how did you even get that transition? I mean, that didn't happen overnight.
No, I mean, we're talking 25 years between, then and now. So yeah, a huge amount of time and an enormous amount of work and study. So I studied the stress response in the body. I studied the immune system in the body. I kind of became a walking encyclopedia on the mind-body connection, doing anything and everything I could to understand how to drive my body, from nutrition and microbiology right the way up through to mindset. So yeah, swimming, water was kind of where the world makes sense to me right the way from when I was a child. There's not a photograph of me under the age of 5 that I'm not sat in a bucket or a puddle or the kitchen sink. So I'm a proverbial water babe, and water was the one place when I was ill where I didn't hurt, so I could float. And the anti-inflammatory kind of getting in cold water, my body didn't hurt for the only time, in the day. So water just became this place that I returned to again and again. And yeah, over time, I mean, a very, very long time, and a lot of trial and error and a lot of getting it wrong, but continually just trying to piece together healthy moments led to this compulsion of wanting to push myself and find my boundaries and find my edge.
Wow. I mean, now I'm completely blown away. And your tagline of "Own Your Own Destiny," it makes complete sense when we see where you came from. Was that Stefan? Was that your idea? Was it Beth's idea? Where did that tagline come from?
The tagline, I think, comes from, I mean, it is like, if you had to describe the life of Beth, I think that is sort of her life. That seems to be her mantra. And
Yeah.
so, and that also comes through in the film, the ups and downs of the film, and the twists and turns. Own Your Destiny describes all of that very well, especially when you see the whole journey of the swim and the decisions that Beth made throughout the swim. I think it fits it. The tagline fits the film really well.
Yeah. And how did you two meet initially?
Do you want to take that? Shall I tell you?
Yeah, it was a really incredible moment. I mean, I'm a keen swimmer. I'm a keen outdoor swimmer. I as a kid, I used to swim in the rivers and canals of North Germany. And when I was looking for a project, I wanted to make a film about swimming. Okay. And I came across Lynn Cox's book, Swimming to Antarctica, and was really inspired by that. And then a friend who's also the co-producer of the film introduced me to Beth, because he heard about her wanting to take on Ocean 7. So he introduced me to her. And I remember when I came to the front door, I was immediately integrated in a pillow fight that they had. And a pillow was thrown right into my face. And I thought that was a really good introduction into Beth's life and into their family life, and getting to know Dylan. And so we spent then the rest of the day or the rest of the afternoon talking about what Beth wanted to do. And yeah, I mean, it was Beth had these two parts, the sort of epic challenge, Ocean 7 in a year, this huge quest, epic quest, heroic quest. And then on the other side, Beth's backstory of her struggle with ME, and her being for long periods of time as a teenager, being in bedridden and being in a wheelchair, and overcoming her illness, and the importance water and swimming played in that. You had this these two sides in a way that always makes great cinema, and that's what we always wanted to make a cinema film. They have the human side, Beth's struggle with her illness, being a single mother with an autistic son, and on the other hand, this sort of really epic journey. I thought I was immediately hooked and inspired, and yeah, it was great. It was so good meeting her, and of course we've now known each other for a long while, so it's been a real great privilege to know her and get to know her even better. But Beth Beth might have something to add.
Well, I wanted to ask, I mean, why in the world would you want to throw a pillow at your potential director?
I didn't. Oh my goodness, no. So my little boy and I knew that I had this director coming down from London, this award nominated, and I was terrified, right? So Dylan and I had come to this agreement that if we could play and roughhouse beforehand, that he would have, I didn't own a television, so he could have my iPad and he could go upstairs and he could watch cartoons while I had this very important conversation when they arrived. So the door knocked. We had been having a pillow fight. I went to get the iPad. Dylan ran to the door and introduced himself to Stefan by throwing a pillow at him. And to Stefan's credit, whilst I nearly melted into the floor, Stefan just sort of picked Dylan up and carried him into the house and carried on the game. And that introduction actually made it possible for Dylan to cope with whatever happened afterwards in making the film. So it wasn't me.
Got it. And for the audience who doesn't know who Dylan is, Beth, can you explain about your son?
So Dylan is my biggest cheerleader. He's my manager. He's my partner in crime. He's now 12. He's my son. And he's my little firebrand. So yes, he was my greatest training tool when he was smaller. From the age of about 3, I would sort of put him in a little wetsuit and in a little life jacket and give him a water pistol and put him in a dinghy, board leash the dinghy to my ankle, and he would point down the coast where he wanted to go for a picnic, and he'd squirt me with the water pistol to keep me going. So I would tow him for resistance training.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And as he got bigger, I got stronger. So it works out well.
Wow. Explain, like, what was the longest swim that you did when you were pulling him along in the water?
Oh, so I mean, he ended up being good for an hour each way, so a couple of miles each way in the sea.
Wow.
And we would go for a good coastal swim. Yeah, and I mean, he's sort of grown up being, really quite confident in the water. He's a little proverbial water babe as well. So if I had to do pool training, I didn't do it when he wasn't around. He would actually sit on my hips in the swimming pool and make me swim lengths with him sat on my hips and charge and then playing cowboy. So yeah, I mean, he really was an integral part of my training.
Wow. And
yeah,
this your son sounds like the perfect escort crew member.
Well, yes, he's got the sadist side of it. Yeah, he doesn't mind watching you put yourself through pain. He was kind of challenging me to swim another length, mummy, swim another length. He loved it. So yeah.
Wow. And I can just feel the energy and love between you two. What were some of the most powerful or emotional parts of this journey when you were traveling the world and doing all these things, knowing that Dylan was there behind you?
Sure. I mean, I think that's one of the greatest things that I could have given him, because, for a lot of people who find out that their child has autism, you suddenly feel like the world's going to suddenly get very much smaller, because you get told that an autistic kid is going to need strictly defined routine. They're going to need lots of stability. And that wasn't my experience of Dylan. I was Dylan's stability, and I was Dylan's safety. And my little boy wanted to climb trees. He was scaling telegraph poles. He was an adventurous little creature. So, me having had my experience of traveling around the world, trying to recover from ME and loving adventure, I thought, this is a perfect example of A, showing my son that with dedication, you can do anything you want, but then B, also showing him different ways of living life. You don't have to be defined by your boundaries. You don't have to be defined by a diagnosis. You don't have to be defined by other people's expectations. So taking him off with me, I mean, the first real big trip we did, when I swam the Molokai Channel the first time back in 2012. So, we spent 3 months in Hawaii, and he swam with wild dolphins. He climbed down in the Kilauea caldera. So, saw volcanoes. With the Ocean 7, I think challenging him, and it was very challenging to cope with different countries so close together. The long haul flights, was challenging. They're tough for adults, but for him, he was such a trooper. Learning his boundaries, learning what he can cope with. He can cope with Hawaii heat. He can't cope with Tokyo heat. I know that now, and it's really, really useful. But sharing it with him and having his support, he was my biggest supporter on the whole journey. When times were tough, he was really there for me in a way that, nobody else could possibly have been. It was amazing. So sharing it with him was really quite special.
Yeah. And Stefan, I want to address the issue of challenges, because, doing any film on dry land is difficult enough. Now you got to take a camera, you got to figure out how are you going to document this journey of Beth on the ocean, waves, wind. How did you manage that?
Yeah, really, good good question. Yeah, that was from the outset. It was we always on the outset. It was always about clear that we wanted to make it a film for the cinema. So we had ambitions in terms of what it should look like. But the challenges and the demands, of course, yeah, we're on a boat that moves constantly, so the cameras need to be stabilized. So we had stabilizers. We had the swims are long, up to 19, 20 hours. So we had to be awake for long times during the night. You had to have light portable cameras that are light sensitive at night. So those are the sort of equipment questions. But then also crew, we had to keep it really small because there's not much space on the boat. And then also, of course, you know, how do you film it? You know, how do you capture the struggles of a swimmer when they're, for most of the time, they are just face down in the water. It is very repetitive. You know, it's a very monotonous activity. So how do you bring that alive? So that was also something that we talked about a lot about. And so we had our extra filming boat that would basically enable us to pretty much get every angle we wanted. We had underwater camera teams to give us the angle from underneath, and then we had also drone cameras to give us a top shot. So to show all aspects, you know, to show the wilderness, the vastness of the sea, the struggles that Beth went through, the enormous physical and athletic demands of a swim, and the length of the swims. To bring that across, that was we talked a lot about that. And then of course you have these sort of positions where the beginning, for example, the beginning of the journey are really difficult to catch, because we are on the boat, and so we can't really get close enough and to get the proper beginning. And then the same on the end, because we're on the boat, you never quite know where Beth will land. So it's really hard to get the climax, the winning moment, the climax of the moment is really difficult to get, because we never know where it's going to be, and we can't send somebody ahead to film it. So that was also a logistical struggle in terms of how do you tell the story of each challenge in a sort of coherent way. So yeah, and then on top of it, of course, you have to be there every moment in the swim. Something dramatic can happen. So you have to be really aware. I mean, Beth obviously has to swim for 12 hours, through the night, for up to a day. So she stays awake. But also for the crew, it means that because every moment something incredible can happen, you have to be always aware. We treated it. I used to do a lot of magic shows, filming magic shows, where you would film always with 2 or 3 cameras in order to not miss the climax. So we also decided to do that. So because you only have one moment in a way to catch if something important happened for any encounter with marine life or anything that might happen. So to be always aware that every next moment can be the most important moment of the swim.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I had no idea. I mean, you did capture the emotion, which is very difficult to do. I mean, to be honest, I've been on channel swims before and marathon swims, but I've always known very well about that athlete. I either trained with them or I knew them a long time. So I could tell the nuances of the stroke, but here you are, meeting Beth for the first time in a pillow fight, and all of a sudden you're on the channel. I mean, what you did, how you captured all those angles, now I understand. And it's to your credit. I mean, that was really outstanding. But you must have been exhausted. I mean, I know Beth was exhausted at the end. You guys, with all the camera and decision making, you must have been really exhausted after each swim.
Yeah, I mean, not as exhausted as if we had swum it, but yeah, it is very exhausting. And of course, I'm not used to being on a boat. Neither was the cinematographer. So seasickness was a real struggle. When you're on the boat for a whole day and it's going really slow, so it enhances the movement of the sea. yeah, seasickness was tough to take. Constant
How much
command.
footage did you capture? I mean, it potentially Beth's crossings were the most well-documented crossings ever.
Probably yes. I mean, we filmed. We were always on standby. Maybe most of the time we had a very small crew, 3 people. So me, cinematographer, and sound person who would also do the drone. So really compact team. Everybody had 2 or 3 jobs to cover. I would do second camera to get the wider angle. Then cinematographer would focus on the sort of important shots.
Don't be shy, Stefan. 90 hours.
Yeah. So we had more than one. Yeah, we had more than one camera. So, and because every moment can be the moment, so you have to be always on standby. And we filmed a lot, hundreds of hours of
wow. So how do you edit that? I mean, you got plenty of footage, but how do you get from 90 hours to 90 minutes?
Yeah, I think each swim, as it happens, was different in a way. Not because the swimming is the same in a way, other than the sea is different. Beth always talks so eloquently about how the different oceans are different and how the sea is different, the waters are different. But from a camera point of view, it's the swimming is very repetitive, but within the overall structure of the channel, each swim was different, and each swim was different and had a different storyline in a way. So in the editing, we try to focus on Molokai, the sea, the swells of the sea, the enormous length of the channel. In Spain, it was a really quick, fast, speedy swim. So each swim, each challenge in a way has its own narrative. And then on top of it, of course, because there is always stuff that happens outside the water, relationships with the team, relationships with the family, going home, financial issues. There's a whole other narrative that goes beyond the actual channel swims. So it was trying to make each swim different, each channel differently, but then create with those different swim to create an overarching storyline. That was probably the hardest, but that wasn't an issue really of amount of footage. That was more like, how can you tell the story, the human interest story, the illness, and how to get all that in, and also capture this epic sporting athletic challenge. So different channels, different storylines, but the hardest one was to create this really capture the strong overall narrative.
Yeah, wow, Beth. My respect for what you did just went up multifold. I mean, operationally, logistics, planning, let alone training, your son putting this film together. I mean, talk about multitasking.
Yes, it was a lot. I mean, it really the challenge itself took me 5 years of planning, organizing a route time-wise when you can swim the channels around the world, communicating with all the different organizations because they require different pre-swims, prerequisites, documentation. Yeah, so sorting all that out and getting a structure of that and starting to put down payments 2 years before you even plan on starting to get in the water. Then, you got 2 years of ramping up training, which, I was doing over 2 years rather than short and sharp because I'm a single mum and I was only training when Dylan was asleep or when he was with me doing, altered training. So, yeah, and then you start looking at flights and where your crew can be and where they're coming from and accommodation. There was an awful lot to sort of put together. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't until probably about the July before I started swimming aiming in for the September, where I actually had a physical person helping me with any of the logistics. So yeah, the run up to it, I was, but then that side of it, the kind of the mental juggle is hugely beneficial as mental training for the challenges that you're going to face. So I used every bit of frustration or every bit of, bureaucracy as training for the swims, of coping and how to manage myself and how to, drive forwards and how to do it.
Wow. So actually when you got in the water, to actually train, that must have been a relief.
The swimming was the easiest part of this challenge by far. The swimming was the most enjoyable part of this challenge by far, and it wasn't always enjoyable. No, I mean, the swimming really, that's what you train for, isn't it? You know, you train to make the event easier than your training, and that's how it should be.
Yeah. What were some of the most challenging things on dry land and in the water, Beth, on this journey?
So interestingly enough, the actual process of being filmed when you're trying to swim was one of the most challenging aspects, hugely. So the first swim in Catalina, it took longer than I was expecting, because I found out afterwards that I had actually contracted a tummy bug. I wasn't being seasick, I was having a tummy bug. And when you have a tummy bug, what you want is to be in your own house with a lockable bathroom door. You don't want a documentary team filming you the whole way. So while you're being sick and while you're not being sick, you're, you know, producing it. So you are exposed completely. And, you know, so in the water, it was quite challenging to kind of shut everything else out and it to just be the swims. On dry land, jet lag became, you know, really quite problematic, because I was recovering from the swims faster than I was getting over jet lag by the end. Yeah. And trying to kind of strike the balance of being mum and that taking precedence was hugely difficult. So Dylan, you know, for one-off challenges, Dylan was absolutely fine with me sort of swimming for hours and being gone. But then being thrown into this kind of real melting pot crucible with traveling with, you know, Stefan and Damien and David, who were the film crew, and then my crew, all of a sudden he's got to deal with 6 people all day, every day in really close proximity. That was hugely challenging for him and really stressful and anxious making. And that became my biggest challenge of the project, was how to manage that, of how to create this kind of safe space and bubble for him, whilst trying to give Stefan what he needed to do, whilst still staying focused and getting to the next swim.
Yeah, well, I certainly hope, you know, other parents who are facing similar challenges can learn from everything that you did, because I don't know how you managed it, but you did. Now, it had to be buoyed by the best moments. I mean, you talked about the challenges. Obviously, you continued on. So there had to have been some unforgettable moments in time that just are etched in your brain. What are those?
Yeah, I mean, hugely. You know, one of the things that will stay with me forever is actually one of the darkest moments when we were in New Zealand, and, you know, the crew felt like as if it was exploding. It was just after my first attempt at the Cook Strait, which didn't go to plan. And I went off for a few days with Dylan, feeling really low, feeling really isolated, but trying to then be with him. I remember him sitting in this sort of little B&B overnight, and he just said, "Mum, don't worry, I've got your back. I believe in you. You can do this, and you know you can do this." And the next day we went in a helicopter, and I strapped crampons to my 8-year-old's feet, and he hiked for 3 hours over a glacier, just feeling so proud of me, telling the guide all about what I was doing. It was, you know, so moments like that where have nothing to do with swims, but make my life, you know, my life. I'm a mum who happens to channel swim, which, you know, that puts everything in perspective. So yeah, I can stop swimming. I will never stop being a mum. Yeah. Those are some of the highlights. And yeah, I mean, certainly, you know, zipping across the Straits of Gibraltar where everything went right. And it was such a lovely swim to do, you know, feeling so triumphant, was epic, was absolutely fantastic. Each swim when you complete, you know, as you're sort of building this pattern of momentum where you start to think, do you know what, actually, this is doable. And this is doable for me. And if it's doable for me, I know that it's doable for other people. But, you know, I can fit this into my life. That can't be remade. And the decisions that you realize where I now know and trust my voice, to believe my body, to trust my body, to know when I need to rest, I will listen to it and I'll rest. I know that I can push through so many physical barriers to sort of stretch what is possible for the human body in a way that, you know, I trust myself implicitly. So that can never be taken away, can never be dented. And the Ocean 7 project ultimately was about me listening to my own voice and finding my own strength and being able to say what's right for me and my son, regardless of what anybody else says, and feeling grateful for knowing that and for having that place to sort of draw on.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Now, there were two other women in the film. Can you talk about those?
Sure. So my mum, I love my mum to bits. And what was quite challenging for the film making and on the back side of it was when I first started channel swimming, I first decided to swim the English Channel in 2010, planning it for 2012. My mum was so distressed and so upset and so anti the idea as a young mum that if anybody said the word swimming in the room when I was there, my mum would have to leave because she was so upset. So it was a huge journey for she and I, as mother and daughter, to come to a place where the term motherhood has a new meaning for both of us. Because to me, I wasn't not being a mum by swimming the channel. And I also wasn't saying that her way of doing it wasn't valid. You know, the way that she brought me up made me the person I am and made me able to do it. But it's such an extreme thing for your child to do. So I can imagine now, you know, seeing Dylan doing things that terrify me. I now have an understanding for her how it took her a while to come to the place where she felt comfortable with that. So yeah, Ocean 7 was a journey that my whole family kind of went on, because none of my family understood it at the beginning of why I would want to do this. And they certainly, you know, weren't sort of there. I didn't have a family who was cheering me on. I come from a very unsporty background. So this athletic endeavor didn't have support. It didn't have understanding. I really was kind of going out on my own. So yeah, my mum is the sort of the voice of reason in this story. And although she does talk well, you know, of herself, saying that she wasn't my biggest supporter, bless her, she did come to realize that this is who I am and this is what I have to do, and now sees my motherhood as valid as hers. So she has gained a huge amount of self-respect in her sense, that her version of motherhood is as valid as mine. And it's been lovely to see that, her grow in strength, saying, you know, my daughter's been able to do this crazy thing. I don't agree with it, but I'm proud that I've been able to produce that. So that's been a fantastic story.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
And Stefan, you, so far, I mean, I very much enjoyed the film. How's the reception been so far? Because you launched originally in the UK, correct?
Yeah, we had, we did. Before maybe I answer that, I just wanted to say, pick up a point from earlier where you were saying about the Beth organizing it, organizing the swim and the filming and stuff. So I just wanted to bring out the fact that we actually were quite separate units. So it wasn't like a Beth organizing a film. It wasn't like a promotional film about Beth had hired us to make a film about it. So it was quite different. So the finances were different, the crewing were different, everything was quite different. And I think that was also really, that was important for several reasons. Firstly, I think it meant that there had to be a lot of trust. I mean, it takes a lot for somebody, and I think that was the hardest bit, is for Beth to open up her life and for Dylan to open up his life, to let us in and let us film them. You know, we would be with them all the time. You know, we would, when they were asleep, we would be there at 6 o'clock in the morning when they wake up. So it takes it, and that's why I'm so grateful to Beth to let us into her life, and Dylan to let us into their life without really knowing what would come out at the end. You know, it could have been very critical, or, you know, it is at times critical, I think. So I think that was really important, and that would add pressure, I think, to Beth as well, in terms of, you know, can I trust these guys? You know, are they going to do the right thing? So I was really grateful, and that for the documentary maker, that's always so important to have a really trustful relationship with your main protagonist. And with regard to your questions about the film, yes, I mean, we launched the film. The world premiere was in a big international documentary festival here in the UK. And then we had a very, very successful festival run, and had our UK cinema release which is quite interesting because I thought the making of the film and the post-producing it would be hard, and it was really hard. You know, filming documentaries is tough, but actually the distribution was another big challenge, because everybody would say to us, you can't, every distributor we would talk to is, we're not going to do a theatrical release, it's not worth it, you're just not going to make enough money. But we really believed that there was an audience for the film, and so we sort of went on a on-demand cinema platform that would organize cinema screenings in the UK, and you have the same in the US. Not now, actually. This was before COVID, and things have changed. But in 2019, that was still possible. So we then took on to, because we always wanted it to be in the cinema. We wanted people to experience this journey, Beth's journey in the cinema. So for us, it was really important. And so we organized it ourselves. We organized screening, and you could see how the momentum would start becoming bigger as we started our cinema release. And it ended up that we had a 10-month cinema release in over 60 screens across the UK, all the way from Cornwall, from small fishing towns in Cornwall, all the way to the northern part of Scotland. And it was so nice to see a swimming community mostly, but also other people enjoying the film and showing it to them, and seeing and meeting these people as we journeyed across the UK with the film and did Q&As. It was really nice, and that to see people and reacting to the film and answering their questions and stuff. So that was really good, the cinema release. And then the film was sort of bought by Sky, so we had a big TV premiere here in the UK, and now it's coming out in the US on the 2nd of March. It's our on-demand release. So we're working towards that, and then we have a big event on an International Women's Day on the 8th. We're having a big screenings, virtual screenings across the country. So it's been a really great, challenging, but great, really, really joyful journey, much like Beth's journey on Ocean 7, I think.
Yeah. Oh, this has been wonderful. And people, if people want to learn more about the film, what is the website address?
Yeah, so if people want to see about the screenings, where can they watch it and where can they order it? The information is all on our website, againstthetides.film.com, and all the information will be there. And follow us on social media, that would be great. And come along, pre-order the film on iTunes, that would be great. That really helps a lot with increasing the visibility of the film. But if you like it, buy it, and or come along to one of the screenings, and if you like it, spread the word.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Beth. I had no idea there was such depth and challenges that you faced. That when you did Catalina, you were very kind and came over to my home, and you walked in. I didn't hit you with the pillow, but you had this charisma that really captured. That enthralled me. So it's been wonderful to watch your journey, and I encourage many people to watch the film, enjoy it. Againstthetides.film.com.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Really nice to speak to you. Thanks for having us.
Bye.